Welcome to the Talented Learning Show podcast series, episode 96 with independent learning analyst John Lay. Today I interview CEO and founder of CYPHER Learning, Graham Glass, about the latest in agentic learning and AI and learning systems. You can find more of our fiercely independent content at talentedlearning.com. Well, listeners, welcome back to the Talented Learning Show. On this show, I'm fortunate to interview the world's leading experts in instructional and enterprise learning technology from both the practitioner and the vendor perspectives. Today, we have a really great guest back with Graham Glass. It's been a couple of years since he's been on the show. CYPHER Learning is one of the leaders in AI and learning, and Graham is just an enthusiastic and positive proponent and really leader in the industry, leading everybody else. Every time I talk to him, I fear that I'm falling behind because he's got so much that he's thinking about in terms of learning technology and AI. Today, we're going to be focusing a lot on agentic learning and what that means and really how that's going to revolutionize not just learning systems, but how everybody in the world learns. So we're going to learn about that, how it's different than a bot. We're also going to learn a lot more about generative AI. And then we're going to focus on agentic today. CYPHER and Graham and his team have been focusing a lot on the generative aspects of creating courses. And we're going to talk about how that concept of courses and agentic learning are going to merge in the future and what exactly that means. We're even going to talk about how it's all based in skills and how you can tie it to measurable results inside your business in one of many ways. So we got a really exciting episode here today. You're going to learn a lot about artificial intelligence, and you're going to learn a lot about where you're at in the process of not understanding to understanding. Because as that gap widens, we got the difference between those who understand this and can leverage it and those who don't is really going to cause a big shift in the marketplace and really a shift in even your personal career of being able to be effective and as effective as others. So we're going to learn how today. We're going to learn how right now. Graham, welcome to the Talented Learning Show. Sure great to have you back after all these years.
It's great to be here, John. And you were mentioning it had been 2 years since we chatted, which is just unbelievable. It seems like yesterday.
2 years, AI time, as you were saying, AI time. It goes quickly. It goes quickly. It's like dog years or something.
Yeah.
Now how things are going. Yeah, 2 years. When we had you here 2 years ago and 34 episodes ago. Holy cow! 34 episodes ago, we were right on the front edge of AI. You were doing looking at generative AI and building your first authoring tool, essentially driven by that completely. And now 2 years has gone by. That was cutting edge back then. Now everybody's doing generative AI. Everybody's doing lots of stuff. Tell me what's happened in your world. You are, I see on the news, I see on television, you're on all over the place talking about AI. What's happened in the last 2 years since we talked in our industry?
Well, we have been implementing the vision of the company, essentially. And I'll tell you a little bit of backstory because almost nobody knows this, but your audience might enjoy this. So in the really early days, that's over 10 years ago, I was building the very initial prototype of the CYPHER platform. And in the prototype, I just decided I'm just going to imagine a world of the future. What do I actually want the company to build? And I oriented it around the concept of a personal learning agent. So the initial prototype, which by the way had almost no AI, it was all smoke and mirrors. It was one where the agent would learn about you, about your career goals, your skills gaps, your learning style, etc., and then basically help you to achieve your learning objectives. That was the prototype. And then I came to the quick realization that for this thing to have any chance at all commercially, it really needs to have a powerful artificial intelligence as the engine, and that did not exist, 10 plus years ago. So we built out the CYPHER platform to be an extremely good modern learning platform, but without that personal agent engine. And then, as you mentioned, 2 years ago, everything changed. And when the AI, I think it was ChatGPT version 3 or something, first came out, we realized finally we can actually actualize our vision. And so we decided the first thing to do was the course creation system, which, by the way, is way better than it was 2 years ago. I still think it's probably the top one. But that was really just a baby step towards the vision, because if you have a personal learning agent, the role of the course becomes greatly diminished. And we can talk about that later on in this chat. So what we've been doing for the last 2 years is building out this entire learning agent vision. And I think within a week or so, there's going to be the first release of what we're calling the CYPHER agent, with some really cool initial capabilities, which I don't think is out in any product right now. But between now and the end of the year, almost every month or so, you're going to see more and more agent capabilities. So by the end of this year, I'm actually going to have in the CYPHER platform kind of like the personal learning agent in action, which I'm really excited about.
Awesome. Awesome. Let's take a step back for our audience, or those of us that aren't so far ahead. What's an agent? What's agentic learning, and how's it different than bots?
Yeah, that's a great question. So an agent is something which works for you, and it's a proactive thing. And so, for example, if I have a personal learning agent and it knows my career trajectory, it knows what I'm interested in, it knows at work the kind of tasks that I'm expected to master, then not only can it help you learn those things, but it will proactively come to you and say, by the way, I know you're very interested in jet engines, let's just say. There's been a breakthrough in jet engine technology in the UK. Would you like me to teach you all about it right now, or maybe sometime in the near future? So that's just a very simple example of agentic learning. The agent is proactively helping you, versus a chatbot, which is primarily reactive. So you can go into a chatbot and you can say, teach me about jet engines, and it might give you a text description of, what's going on, but it's certainly not working for you behind the scenes.
Neat. So it's really, if I had to summarize, it's the proactive part is the huge difference.
The proactive part is the main thing. Yeah. And it's proactive based on everything that it knows about you, hence the personal part of it. So we just call it, like, our vision is that everyone at work or in universities, for example, is going to have a personal learning agent. That's it in a nutshell.
All right. So tell me what a personal learning agent is and what that means for a learner, a typical learner in your platform or any platform.
Yeah. So, we tend to look at it like there's at least two different domains that personal learning agents will exist. There is the consumer domain, which we are not targeting, and then there is the business domain, which we are targeting. And the reason that I say these are quite different is that in the business world, there's a lot of proprietary data that the agent will have to have access to in order to do its thing. There's a lot more guardrails, there's more privacy, there's more corporate management oversight. There is the concept that a manager will have visibility into what your personal agent is doing for you and are setting goals. So the corporate environment is way more complex. And that's what CYPHERLearning is focused on. And I say this because there are going to be consumer personal agents that are going to help you learn cookery, get better at pickleball, all that kind of stuff. We are not focused on that at all. That's going to be Gemini and OpenAI, et cetera. We're focused on the corporate learning agents.
Wow, neat. And so in a traditional learning management system, you mentioned before that courses are primary, and that, with agentic learning, they become secondary. And courses go away. And how do they become secondary? I mean, so many.
Yeah, that's actually a really, really good question. So I would say, number one, I don't think courses are going to go away. And so I'll just kind of describe how we see different modes of learning. So we see learning in the moment. And learning in the moment means that at some point in time during your day, you might go, hey, I need to know about this. Or I'm going to take a 5-minute coffee break and learn about something. And I don't know about you, but the only course I have taken in the last 10 years was a compliance course for CYPHERLearning, all about security and personnel stuff. That's it. In the last 10 years, that's the only time I have ever taken a course. Every single other thing that I have ever learned has been learning in the moment. And it used to be that my learning in the moment was searching Google, scanning through a bunch of videos and scanning through documents, piecing together all the bits and pieces, fragments that I might need, going through those things, curating them, maybe bookmarking them for later. But that was my dominant form of learning. And my guess, based on 100 million people already using ChatGPT, my guess is that is most people's dominant mode of learning. Courses, on the other hand, are highly structured. They are designed that everyone who takes the course gets essentially the same experience. Maybe it's slightly adaptive, but it's certainly not, it's not personalized in how I think about personalized now. And that mode of learning was the dominant mode of learning. And I can understand why. It's like we didn't have AI. There was none of this Gen AI generating content curated specifically for you. So whether you're at a university or whether you're in a corporate environment, courses have been the dominant way. Now, I think that courses still make sense in quite a few scenarios. So for compliance, for example, I think that courses are ideal because you're guaranteed that everyone who takes that course will be exposed to the same information in the same sequence. You'll be able to legally check a mark that says everyone went through this particular thing. I think courses for a majority of compliance will be here for quite a long time. I think onboarding.
Sorry, listeners.
Oh, sorry.
I said sorry, listeners, about that.
Oh, yeah. Now I see what you mean now. Yeah, I know. I still have to do compliance courses. I think onboarding makes good sense. Like if you introduce someone to your company, you're going to want them to go through the same reliable sequence of things. You're going to want to make sure they understand key things about your company. So in those circumstances, I think courses make total sense. But I think that, right now it might be 95-5, the kind of learning that takes place on a learning platform. I think that's going to invert. I think it's going to be 95% is agentic learning in the moment, and 5% is going to be traditional courses. So, and I just want to underscore, we are investing more money than ever into our course development and deployment system. So we're not taking our eye off the ball. We want to constantly raise the bar. We've got amazing stuff coming out in our course tool over the next couple of months. But our vision and where we're putting most of our, forward-looking R&D is into learning in the moment and agentic learning.
Thank you. So if some learning is still good the old-fashioned way, compliance, as you said, and so you measure that as an organization in terms of who got it done and who didn't, and your adherence to compliance. So it's pretty straightforward. How do you measure the new stuff going forward? If everybody's got their own thing and doing their own agents and going in their own direction, can the great organization get any visibility into this?
I think it's all about skills velocity. So, and I'm just going to put on my engineering hat because my primary role at CYPHERLearning is CTO. When we're trying to measure what our teams are doing in engineering, there's a whole bunch of metrics that we track. So the number of what they call PR, pull requests to our code base, the number of commits to our code base, that means the amount of new code that was being committed, the number of bugs that are reported, the number of bugs that are fixed, all that stuff is tracked automatically. So we can see how well our engineering team is performing. Now, if you think about what's the primary role of learning in an organization, it's building new skills, maintaining, did I say schools? Skills, building new skills, maintaining existing skills, adapting to changes. And we know that the world is definitely changing faster than it used to. And the personal learning agents can track that stuff. In fact, they can track it in a much more detailed way than you ever could in traditional courses which are typically not aligned to skills. So in the case of let's just say, for example, that I'm a manager, let's just say, and I say to my agent, and one of the capabilities of the agent is helping you manage your team and developing their skills. And you might say, hey, there's this new thing I read about yesterday. It's a new feature in the world of AI. I want to make sure that all of my principal engineers get good at the skill within the next month. So in the case of agentic AI, you'll basically just talk to your agent. You will say, I would like all of my principal engineers to understand the skill. The agent will go, okay, let me talk to their personal agents, find out which of them do have that skill already, which ones don't. And it'll say 2 seconds later, okay, here are the 3 people that don't currently have that skill. Would you like me to assign that as a goal? Yes, please. Then what's the time frame and what's the priority of that learning goal? So the manager types in sometime in the next month, but it is high priority. Done. Okay. Now the agent for those particular employees will now say, your manager added a new skills goal for you. This is the goal. Would you like me to create a plan for that goal? And you say, yeah. So it'll say, okay, here are 5 different ways that you could achieve this goal in the next month. Number 1, I can actually teach you directly. So that's not taking a course. I know all about that skill already, and I can actually tutor you and teach you that skill. And that's part 1. Then I can assess you on that skill. And by the way, I'm not going to go into details. We are doing amazing stuff when it comes to assessment. Nothing like anything that exists currently. Then, if you want to, you can practice that skill in a simulator. And as a result of all that stuff, you will achieve that goal. Do you want to get started now? And if you say, no, I'm really busy, okay, I'll get back to you in 2 days' time and we'll get started then. And so each person gets alerted by their personal agent. The personal agent comes up with a learning plan. It can actualize any part of that plan, whether or not you have a course built for that particular subject or not, which is really important. And then as this is occurring, the manager's personal agent, let's just say daily, checks in the progress. And 2 days later, it could say, by the way, your team's already doing quite well towards that particular goal.
Yep.
And so as an organization, if I'm in HR, I can go, hey, within our organization, we upskilled 3,000 employees on average with 25 skills that were verified with the assessment tool that were practiced. Can any existing learning platform do remotely that right now? No.
Yeah.
So we really think that agentic stuff is going to provide a lot more insight into what's going on in an organization.
Yeah, interesting. Not that I don't like engineers, but my mind already jumps to the go-to-market functions in an organization. So now you take that same scenario and you extend that to customer service and support. You extend that to internal and external sales, and you extend that same agentic learning for learners to customer learners using your software, perhaps, or your medical device. And if you think about basically getting them exactly what they need to get to the next step, then once again, all those metrics are there: a number of support calls, length of support calls, resolution first time, your pipeline size, the amount of deals that you have, your close rate, all of that then can be measured against the actual skills that you have. And so, we talk about tying everything to go to market revenue metrics all the time here at Talented Learning. This really seems like a bridge that can make that easy.
Yeah, and obviously, as you alluded to, you want to tie this into actual results of your corporation as well. So let's just say, for example, that as a result of me learning about this new AI thing, or it could be a go-to-market function or a support function, then there are certain things that you do in your workplace then as a result of that skill. There is no reason at all why that cannot be fed into the loop as well. Yeah. So if you're in HR, you can say, we rolled out the system, and a result of this system, here is all the job functions that actually occurred that were powered by this. And I think, one of the things about being Gen AI first, that we obviously are at this point, is that you have the ability to roll out a completely turnkey learning skill system for your organization, independent of which courses you currently have. Like, there's a lot of systems out there, some people call them LXPs, for example, that are hindered by the need to have courses for all of these things that you want to upskill on. And the nice thing about Gen AI, because we are investing heavily in the agent being able to teach you stuff. That's actually coming out in a week or so. It's very, very cool.
Nice.
Is that you're no longer hindered by which courses you happen to have licensed or which courses you have to have created. Whereas we do hear from a lot of vendors who are using, LXP systems that it's not that easy because there's so much additional stuff you have to do in order to support the wide range of learning requirements.
Yeah, that is true. Hey, I thought of something. We're so far off the script line here, so this is fun.
That's okay. That's perfect.
Yeah. So I thought of something. In your scenario, you mentioned basically the manager and their agent communicating with the other agent, so that chain of agents. Is
Yeah.
there a difference between learner agents, manager agents, instructor agents, administrative agents, or is it just depending on what your role is and it
Yeah,
adapts?
that's something that we kind of wrestle with. So we don't have an official tagline as a company, but I say everyone's going to have a personal learning agent. But when I say learning agent, I really mean everything to do with learning.
Mm.
So in other words, if you're talking about an instructor using an agent to create a course, for example, or create some educational material, it's all related to learning, if you like you're creating courses to help people learn. Otherwise, you get into this really complicated phrase about it's an education oriented agent, which doesn't roll off the tongue. But to answer your question though directly, it's all powered by AI. It's a single entity that you talk with. Like in our case, we've got, we call the FAB, the floating agent button, as a lot of people, like Gemini has a floating agent button. And when you click on that, you're talking to your personal agent, all things education or all things learning. So if
That's
you're an
interesting.
instructor and you click on the button, it's going to say, how can I help you? And the kind of things that it can help you with will be, customized to your particular role. If you're a manager, then it's going to have certain abilities that it makes available to you that a regular learner wouldn't make any sense for. But behind the
Okay.
scenes, it's basically Cypher agent, and it just has different abilities based on your job role.
Love it. Love it. How cool.
Because the other thing would be you pop it open. It's like, do you want to talk to your manager agent or your learner agent or your instructor? And it's like, I don't think people really want to. They just want to click a button and get it done.
That's interesting. That's kind of maybe that's just an artifact from whether you have a administrator or a learner app, on the in iTunes or something like that, and people are still thinking about it the same way.
Yeah,
Okay, so let's go back to Gen AI. That was a great discussion on Agentric. Last time, I'll summarize. Why don't you tell me what's new? So last time you could put it in a topic, you could start defining criteria like, the tone that you wanted, the length, the number of modules, whether you wanted pre-test and post-test and study guides and a gamification thing, and whether you wanted to embed scenarios and
yep,
thresholds and all that stuff. You were sourcing graphics and video, transcribing videos, transcribing the whole course or localizing the whole course in 30 some different languages at the
yep,
time. And all that happening in a few 10 minutes. Oh, and then using a different AI to check the first AI to make sure it wasn't hallucinating.
yeah,
That's just off the top of my head what I remember from 2 years ago. What's changed?
yeah.
Is
And
that
that's all.
is that right?
It all gets done in 5 minutes now, by the way. So it got faster. So there's a whole bunch of more mundane things and some other things that are more forward thinking. So obviously, we're always upgrading the models that we use. And one of the things that was really important when you build a course is you want to do a really good job of the course structure, the flow. And so, for example, there is the new reasoning model from OpenAI called O3 that thinks really deeply about something and it reasons and goes round and round and round. So one of the things that we've done in our authoring tool, which is more on the mundane side, is to use those reasoning models for the really important decisions in the course. So for example, deciding the flow of the modules is done by O3, but coming up with the content for a particular thing is done by 4.1, which is the faster, less expensive, but still very good AI model. So we use O3 in a few places, and we typically use 4.1 in other places. Also, similar thing, when we're doing AI cross-check, now we're using the very latest version of Claude Anthropic, which is also a really good premium AI. That way, when it's doing the AI cross-check, it's doing a more thorough job. But I'll tell you about some of the additional things that we added. We added digital voiceover. And right now we happen to use 11 Labs, although that might change in the future, which is really, really handy for accessibility as well. Like if you're partially sighted, you can click a button and you can hear the course being delivered to you. And that works in 50 languages. Another thing which is really cool is something that we call step-by-step course creation. So what we did in the first version was all at once, which you basically just say, here's all the parameters of the course. I want it aligned to 20 skills, which could be existing skills or create new skills. And it would just build the skills, build the course outline, build the section outline, create the content, gamify it, da-da-da-da-da-da-da. So in step-by-step, what you do is you just check a button under generation mode. And if you select step-by-step, it now has an animated status window that shows you everything that it's doing in real time. And once it's created the skills, it'll pause and say, click here to review and edit before you can continue. So what that means is you can say, generate me the 20 skills that this course is going to teach. It does it in a matter of 15 seconds. Then it says, click here. The animated tool takes you to the area, and then you can see the list of skills that it's recommending. But at that point, it's malleable. You can edit skills, you can add skills, you can delete skills, do whatever you want. Once you're finished with that, you just say continue. Then it goes to the next step and does the module structure. That's using the O3 reasoning model. Then it will pause again, and then you can go back and you can reorganize the modules. You can add additional modules. You can edit the module descriptions. Everything is taken into account by the AI. Then when you're done, you say continue. Then it will build the section structure based on what you approved. So at every step, you can review and edit and change, and then it'll do the section structure, and that's the last thing you approve, and then it'll go ahead and build out the whole course. And so that gives you a much more fine-grained control of every step versus build the whole thing and go, I wish I'd added that additional skill. And as you know, I used to build a lot of courses, as you probably know, John, and having that additional step-by-step ability was really nice. And we actually had to re-architect a lot of the code, funnily enough, to allow that sounds like relatively simple feature to work properly. So that's been another nice thing. In the next month or so, we're going to be releasing video. So you'll be able to inject, AI-generated videos. Another thing which is coming out, I think in a week or two, and we've been waiting for this for a long time, is textbook quality imagery in the actual content itself. So the way that our system currently works, it can generate AI imagery for the course tiles to make it look aesthetically beautiful. And then when you go into the actual content, we would source imagery and videos from the web. But very recently, as you probably know, OpenAI released a new image model, which is really good at very, very detailed imagery. So now you'll be able to say, I want the actual images themselves to be generated by AI. But as we all know, AI can make mistakes, and it makes mistakes in images as well. So we are releasing what I think is going to be the world's first AI-powered image cross-check. And doing image cross-check by AI is way more complicated, by the way, than content cross-check. So you have to use another AI to look at the image, figure out any issues that it's found, feed it back into the first AI model, which can then use that feedback from the second AI to modify that image and cycle until there's no errors left, and then that's what you actually get.
Wow.
So AI-powered textbook quality imagery with cross-check, that's another nice thing. We're also going to be adding AI-powered animation and transitions in Q3, so that you won't just, click through the course and see the static pages. It's going to be AI powered animations and all kinds of stuff. So, once again, we're really focused on agentic learning as the company vision, but we are not taking our foot off the gas of the course authoring part of our system.
Wow, that's incredible. That's incredible. I've got so many comments on that, not enough time. But I love the step to action through the AI and the course builder, because you know what? I naturally found that same process just working with the open AIs or chat GPTs, that if you try to do too much, you can't ever get it done. And so it's best just to kind of go step like that and you get to the end faster. And so it's neat that you built the course out. Otherwise, you got to try to reverse engineer everything. And that's the downside. If it goes all the way to creating the content, you're like, that's not based on the right skill model. Then you got to do all that over.
You got to go all over again.
Yeah. So that's cool to get rid of that. Graham, I can't help we'll wrap. This is our last question here, and I'll kind of pontificate first.
I really would like to describe the new Learn tool.
All right, go ahead.
Because that is major, major, major. So if that's okay with you.
Yeah, go ahead.
So what's coming out, I think it's in about a week, is a completely AI powered agentic learning tool, which knows all about you, your career, your position, your interests, the courses that you're enrolled with, your strengths and weaknesses and skills. And you touch a button and you tell it, I want to learn about whatever you want. And the way to think about it, it's like ChatGPT on steroids. So it's not a text box. It's actually a graphical interactive tutorial built just for you, full real-time AI cross-check of all the content, which is really difficult to do in real time, by the way. We had to do a lot of engineering stuff to get that working. A concept map, so you can see graphically all the various different concepts and skills that it's going to teach you about. You can chat with it. You can ask it questions. It supports binge learning. So it can say, here are some other recommended areas that you could learn. So what this means is, if you wanted to learn about DNA sequencing, you no longer have to worry about, is there a course out there? Can I have to ask L&D to build a course on this stuff? You can just click the button, type in, I want to learn all about state-of-the-art DNA sequencing, as detailed or as vague as you want, and it will just teach you that stuff in the here and now. And it's all cross-linked with courses. So let's just say you're taking a course on something, and the course lists, here are the skills that this course is going to teach. If you enable it, you can actually select one or more skills in the course and click Learn Using AI, and it will launch the agentic learning tool on those particular skills in real time. So this is our first agentic feature. It's all learning in the moment, state of the art, ChatGPT on steroids, and then we're going to continue to build on that for the rest of the year.
So if you're a listener right now and you haven't been embracing AI, you may feel at this point like, holy cow, I don't know a lot. And of to say the least, So, for those, and, when I look at I'm not nearly as up on everything as you are, but I look at that those who understand this technology in learning or in general in life, and those who don't, that gap continues to get wider each day because AI pushes that gap wider each day between those who know and those who don't. And how that translates then is going to those who learn faster and impact businesses better, their business better. And so it's almost like a huge competitive differentiation to be in that group that doesn't know this. And so that's a long-winded intro to say, if you happen to be in that group right now and you're a couple years behind, you're listening to this thinking they're using terms I don't get, what's your advice on people ramping up as fast as they can on this? Can they use AI to ramp up on AI? Like, how can they close this gap fast and catch up?
So that's a very good point. And I'll start by mentioning something that Sam Altman said. So they asked Sam, in this world of AI, if you were a kid, what would you tell kids? Like, what should you get good at? And he said two things. Number one, resilience. In other words, you got to be determined, don't give up, work through the pain. That'll strengthen your mind. The second thing is you need to get really good at learning new stuff quickly. And that so that it's like that knowledge velocity. Like if you don't learn how to learn things quickly, you're going to get left behind because the world is changing more quickly. And so CYPHER's vision of the personal learning agent is all about enabling that. We're going to enable people to learn new things quickly. And if you want to learn more, like the learning tool, for example, course creation tool, we actually have videos on our website of this thing in action. So even though it's not officially released, we've already got screenshots and that kind of stuff. And I would say if you want to get an idea about what's going on in the industry, CYPHERLearning.com is actually a really great place to get started.
There you have it. Sage advice. Graham Glass, CEO, founder, CYPHERLearning, making the world a smarter place. Graham, thanks for joining us again today and updating us. I'll never let 2 years go by again.
Thank you, John. Yeah, we need to chat more often than every 2 years, for sure.
For sure. That was great. I learned a ton and saved me from trying to have to figure out agentic learning all on my own. So I'm sure a lot of the audience feels the same way. So congratulations. 2 years ago, I got off the podcast thinking that you were out in front in terms of AI and the application of AI. And 2 years later, I think you're out in front on the application of AI and thinking about agentic learning and really thinking about how all this is going to come together, how it all plays out. And it really helps complete my vision too. So thanks very much for taking the time. You could be doing a lot of things with your time. Educating us is certainly worth it.
My pleasure, John. Have a great day.
Awesome. Listeners, thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Talented Learning Show podcast series. We hope you found value and we'll see you on the next. Have a great day, everyone.